Welcome to Amateur Redneck Workshop. I'm Harold, and I didn't die from getting a little titanium post stuck in my jaw, so I'm right back to it to finish on the belt grinder. We don't finish it, of course, but we do a lot of good things, and this episode right here I call Desperation or Disaster or something. Let's get on with it. Finally, time to weld all the pieces together for the base, and it's going better than I had expected. Looks a bit like a dirt dauber, but it's coming along. Now that part right there where you've got that gap right there, that's the one that's causing me the the slowdown. It's hard to fill it up, but believe it or not, I'm getting it full. And so I've got the feet on this part almost. I've sort of got maybe 50% of finishing welding down those feet. But all the interesting things that have happened to me have taken a long time, and I've run out of steam. So I think I'm going to just put the garage door down. I've had it up all this time, to keep from causing cancer in California. And I guess I'll just knock it off for the day and come out tomorrow, and it'll be a new day and we'll work harder at it. Alright, so I've attached this guy here. He's welded down on both sides. Put a little spacer, which is the hinge from the swiveling part, in here, and then this next brace, hinge, whatever, he's going to get welded on that side, but I don't guarantee if he's going to get welded on the inside edge. I'm not sure if I can reach up in there with anything and weld it. Same goes for the guy over here. Let me move you over. Got the outside guy tacked down. I've got the piece that's going to go in there for sitting there as a spacer. Now this guy's got to get welded down, and I'm not sure how I'm going to get the inside edge of him either. I'm sure I can reach in there and get a little bit of it, but not just a whole lot. But this piece of drill rod is really tight in the drilled holes, and it's holding everything good and straight. So I feel good about that anyway. That part's going to work out, pretty sure. So on with the welding. I managed to weld between the hinges pretty well, almost all the way across, but just letting my wire stick way up in there. And there's certainly enough metal in there to hold, that's for sure. So now I'm going to weld these little pieces here, two of them. There's actually one more to go, but I'll have to pull the rod out and position him and then put it back in for the last piece. But I've got it set up here with a 1/2 inch spacer between them. It's supposed to be a 1/2 inch apart. And there goes my hammer. See, there's a 1/2 inch spacer right there between them. And the back one's supposed to be a 1/2 inch higher up than the front one, so it's touching the hinges on the bottom, so that has to, it's got to fit. So the next step is probably going to be easier than the first one. We'll find out. But I've got to tack these guys that are on the back piece, the swiveling piece. I got to tack the hinges to that. Alright, I guess pretty much the hinges are finished. When I go to put it back together, I may have to maybe run a reamer through the holes. It was tight. I had to drive that drill rod out of there with a brass drift. But that much is pretty well done there. Ready to step up to the next part of the job, which is to make the motor mount and stuff like that, I believe that's next. And then we make the platen and the tool rest, and then it'll be time to start mounting things on it. Of course, there's a lot of little parts to go yet. I have to make the little brackets for the wheels that go on the platen, and I have to make the platen itself, and a lot of steps yet, but we're getting there. Now that the welding's complete, I'm going to have to do some what they call at IBM farming operations. I worked with a guy one time that had been a printer and copier repairman for IBM, and they don't bend any little piece of metal, they form it. They're forbidden to use the term bending. So there's a couple little hinges there that maybe are binding at the top and loose at the bottom, or vice versa, that I'm going to have to farm a little bit. And I lost a whole day of work today on this thing because I'm getting a tooth implant. I went to the dentist this morning not knowing that they were going to get started on it. I thought it was going to be a consultation, and the next thing I know, they've got me knocked out cold, and they've put a little titanium post in my gum, and I woke up and come home and slept all afternoon. But I can feel my tongue now, so now that we're there, we're going to just keep on keeping on. Alright, in a previous video, I took time out to make this little ring here to put on behind the locator, and I think the function of it may have been misunderstood by some viewers. As you see, I've got this stop set this so I can duplicate 6-inch length cuts one time after another, but the idea is that you have to get this thing out of the way, because if it's here, the blade will catch on this thing and try to twist it in there, and it'll jam it tight against the blade and make the blade jump off the wheels. Now, the guy said, well, all you need to do is just reset it there every time. Well, the thing is, when I let it down and this guy's cut off, I don't know where there is. I've got to get out a ruler or something and measure it again. But if I have this little stop, it's still in the same place. Every time I come up here, it's in the same place. I don't have to move it out of the way to make my cut. I can leave it there, drop this down, make my cut, move it back up, move the rod over, bar, whatever I'm cutting, if you see what I mean. That makes it easily repeatable without any more measurements. Hopefully that's clear as mud. Every time I go to cut a piece of 6-inch plate with this bandsaw, it cuts down halfway through the plate, and then the bearings on the blade guide thing stop it right there. They hit it right there. Well, all I need is to remove a 1/16 of an inch from this spot right here to make it fit, and then it would clear at least up to ½ an inch high stuff anyway. So I figured that I would go ahead and just slide the thing forward a little bit and grind that stuff out there. And I mean, what could, and I'm talking to myself here, and I asked, well, what could go wrong? And I hear this voice coming out of the heavens, Sacre bleu, an angle grinder in the redneck, anything can go wrong. And I realized it was the voice of Pierre speaking to me from the snowy peak of Mount Kanukistan. And so I thought, well, we better follow Pierre's advice. So I took it apart, I got my Harbor Freight angle grinder, and I used the darn thing up right down here in the grinding in the wrong spot. And then I got this little piece here, and I didn't want to cut on this because it's aluminum and thin enough already. And I slid it in here, and I realized I need to cut out up here. But just as soon as I started to do that, my genuine Harbor Freight angle grinder, which I was on either the 5th or maybe the 8th use of it, probably the 6th, somewhere in there, it burned out. So I had to go and make up a good story, you know, with the boss lady. And I went down to Home Depot and I got me a Bosch angle grinder. Now you'd say, oh, Bosch, that's a good name, but it says right on the box, made in China. So I'm hoping that if Bosch is still having anything to do with it, that they specified good stuff. I mean, they can make good stuff in China. It's the importers that specify crap, like Harbor Freight, you know. Alright, let me get on with the grinding and see how it comes out. Okay, I think I removed enough metal for that thing to make a 6-inch cut finally. And the brush runs a whole lot better than that Harbor Freight did. It removed this stuff really quick. Using the exact same disc. I just took the disc off the Harbor Freight and put it on this one. And this guy really eats the metal, whereas the Harbor Freight, I could pretty well stall it out over there if I pushed on it too hard. So maybe this was specified by some guy like Stephen Gottsville, you know? If so, there would be quality. We can hope anyway. I'll wake you guys up if it fails to cut all the way through. Alright, so even though I had to stop and repair or replace some Harbor Freight crap, I guess some of each, I've got the pieces cut out now for the motor mount, and this piece up here is for the tension adjuster angle. I think that's what they call it. All this needs to be welded up, so my next step will be to weld up this batch right here, and then we'll move further on into the machine. I guess after I get this welded up, the next step is going to be making the piece that goes up and down. Dang it, I don't remember everything, but anyway, that'll be the next step. And once we get through with that, mount wheels and such, and adjust a lot of things, and maybe we'll have a belt grinder. Maybe. I guess now we'll take a look and see if we got a Bubba joke, or Thibodeau, or Ole, or some unfortunate redneck. The sheriff was driving along this little old road just outside of town, you know, and there he spotted Bubba with his pickup truck backed up to this ditch just to throw in trash and garbage off in the ditch. Sheriff, well, I'm going to have to put a stop to that, you know, and he drove up there and he walked up to Bubba and he says, hey, he says, what the heck are you doing dumping your garbage in this ditch? He says, can't you see that sign? Bubba says, yeah. He says, of course I can see that sign. He says, that's why I'm dumping it here. It says fine for dumping garbage. Well, that's all, folks. Y'all try to subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Leave a comment if you got something to say. And above all, remember, keep on keeping on. Bye now.